Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Callie and today I am doing a recent reads. And I haven't done a recent reads in a hot minute because in the entire month of October and a good chunk of September and the first, I don't know, week, 2 weeks of November, I didn't touch a book, like at all. So I went through a pretty decent reading slump for a few reasons. One, I'm working on a writing project, which has been taking up a lot of my time. And B, I got married in the very beginning of November, so that took up a lot of my time. So in the month of November, I actually took a break from the writing project that I'm working on, which is actually the project I'm working on with Sarah. So I was able to, after I got married, focus back on reading. So I'm really excited. And I got through a fair amount, but I've also been DNFing a lot more because through the book slump, I kind of realized that I read a lot of books be due to hype or due to the fact that I feel the need to finish out a series once I've started it, even though I'm not liking it. A good example is earlier in the year, I read a series called The Lux and I didn't like a single one of them. So I am trying really hard to, if I don't click with a book, whether it's the writing style, the protagonist, the story, the sequel isn't going the way that I want it to, not necessarily the way I want it to, but it's taking like a very odd direction that I think is kind of stupid, which sounds really bad, but overall, just if I have a feeling that I need to DNF this book, I'm gonna try and DNF it. So I'm going to start with the 3 books I DNF. The first of which is Smoke in the Sun by Renee Ahdieh. This is the sequel to Flame in the Mist, and I wasn't a big fan of Flame in the Mist to begin with. It just felt like every other Mulan retelling that I had ever read, and there was just nothing unique about it, and I just didn't click with the characters a lot. So I started this, I got about 30-ish pages in before I was like, I'm still not clicking with these characters and I super don't care what happens to them. So I decided to stop. The next DNF that I did was Between the Spark and the Burn by Genevieve Tucholke. This is the sequel to Between the Devil and the Deep Blue Sea. The Devil and the Deep Blue Sea I somewhat enjoyed. It was a mind-screwing of a book, which was really interesting at times, but with the beginning of this book, the main character got so whiny and piney, whereas I really liked that she was very independent and very for herself and her art and her town and her history and very just independent, and I feel like we lost a lot of that character just immediately, so I didn't really care to watch her pine all of the book. And the last one that I ended up DNFing, and I actually ended up taking all of this series off of my list entirely just because I haven't liked a single one of these books. I don't think I mesh with the writing style at all, and that is The King of Attolia by Whalen Turner. These books follow a thief who says that he is the greatest thief of all time, and then just sort of weirdness ensues, which is fine, but I never really cared about the thief, and with him being our main pull, I didn't care about his story. I didn't care about his character. Feels very flat to me, and because he is our main protagonist, all of the other characters also really fell flat, and I just didn't care about the world. I didn't care about the story. Everything felt very forced in my opinion. So I decided to give up on this series, which I gave it 2.5 books-ish. I just don't think that the writing style was for me, unfortunately. Moving on to the 3-star category. The first one is Little Monsters by Kara Thomas. This is a standalone YA thriller following this girl who goes to live with her dad that she's never really known after her mom gets arrested. So she's fairly new into this town, and it's that very, very similar YA trope of new girl in town, weird stuff starts to happen. New girl is automatic suspect. It did follow that very well, although it took a very creepy turn once we started to kind of unravel everything, and I did really enjoy Kara Thomas's plot twists and the things that happened at the end of this book. I think that, yes, I'd say the 3/4 of this were very predictable and cookie cutter, but the rest of it is where it got me. And I was sucked in. I did read this book in one sitting. It was very enthralling. I got very invested in our main character, Casey's life and her struggles of her trying to tell everyone that she didn't do it. And it was all just, it was very intriguing. We also get some diary entries from the girl that does go missing, and you get little glimpses into her life, which I find extremely intriguing and very different for this YA trope. The next 3-star read that I have is Ghostly Echoes by William Ritter. This is book 3 in the Jacoby series, and this is by far my favorite one. We follow our little group of supernatural hunters as they try and figure out who killed their ghost friend. And I feel like this book is really where our main overarching plot really opens up, and really we get into why all these bad things have been happening in the previous couple of books. So I think that this did drone on a little bit, and there was actually a fair amount of info dumping on the world and the lore. For a third book, I found that to be a little weird and out of place. But otherwise, I did really enjoy getting all of this history and the lore within this world. Moving up slightly to the 3.5 category, I have Shielded by KayLynn Flanders. This follows a girl who, her twin has always been the heir to the throne, and she is now, her goal is to go to the neighboring kingdom and marry their prince so that they can end this war that has been going on for ages. However, something really drastic happens where she ends up having to go in hiding. It had a lot of Goose Girl vibes to it, where girl not totally accepted has to go in hiding into the kingdom she was originally supposed to end up in. And she ends up implementing herself into the political structure of the enemy kingdom. And it followed that, oh, these people aren't all that bad kind of an idea. And I really like those aspects where you have this character where they've built it up in their mind and the reader's mind that they're right, their country is the one that is struggling, their country is the one that is right, and then they go and visit that country and they're like, oh, these are people too. And it creates a lot of interesting dynamics, and it affects a lot of the relationships that have been built prior to and during their infiltration of the other country. So I did really enjoy this. I think the ending and the way that the magic system was created was phenomenal, and I'm really excited to see where it goes from here, because it introduced a lot of really intriguing magical concepts that I hope they explore further. The next 3.5-star read is Star Daughter by Shevta Thakrar. This follows this girl living in modern day New Jersey who is half star. Quite literally, she is the daughter of a star. And it's a very shiny book. We follow Shital, who she tries to conceal her identity as half star, but when an accident occurs that she accidentally causes from using her star powers, she ends up going to the Star Court and is unwittingly put into these games where she has to compete to save her family back on Earth. But on the flip side, she also gets to meet her mother's family. After her mother left when she was very young, she never really got to see. She just knew she was up in the Star Court, and we get to meet her family. And I thought that dynamic was really well done. The magic and the description of the Star Court and the magic and all that, I think, was extremely lyrical and beautiful. However, the issue I had with this is the plot kind of jumped all over the place. And I kept getting very confused as to what was going on. And with the way that the plot was built, it felt very, this is just the way things are. There was no real explanation as to why these things happened politically. I think it was a great base structure of a political system. I just don't think that it was very well fleshed out within this book. But I think as a standalone, this was really beautiful, and I love the art, and this is one of my very pretty editions. Just a well done fantasy integrating with real world. I think that was fantastic and just very, very well done. The last book in the 3.5-star category, I have the beautiful which is a vampire story following a girl named Celine who has run away from France to New Orleans to escape bad things that she did at home. And when she gets to New Orleans, she meets this very suspicious character, and then girls who had also run away from home on the same like little barge ship as Celine start just mysteriously dying with all of their blood gone, and ensues our mystery. I think that this atmosphere was so perfect. It was just such a fun and whimsical. It held that party-esque city of New Orleans in the 1800s. We got a lot of that culture and history, which I loved. We also got introduced to a fair amount of other different supernatural beings, which I thought was really fun and really well integrated. However, I was promised a vampire story, and I didn't really deliver on a vampire story. If you've read the book, you kind of know what I mean. But I'm interested to see where this book goes, because the last one kind of just ended, and I have ideas as to where The Damned is going, but I'm not really sure. But I have high hopes, and I want more vampires. Moving up in the 4-star category, the first book that I have is The Book of Spirits and Thieves by Morgan Rhodes. This is a spin-off series from the Fallen Kingdoms, and this, similar to Star Daughter, has an integration of modern-day society with fantasy worlds. We have these two sisters. One of them touches this magical book called the Codex and is transported into Mythica, which is our world from Fallen Kingdoms, but it is ancient Mythica, which we only really heard little legends here and there from the Fallen Kingdoms series. We even get to meet one of our main goddesses that we constantly hear about in the main series. I thought that this was such a really well done melding of modern day and fantasy. I loved every second of it. The characters, even though they're brand spanking new to me, I still felt that same connection that she did with the characters from the Fallen Kingdom series. And one thing that I'm really scared of, as much as I love Morgan Rhodes' writing and the way that she builds worlds, this series is technically supposed to be a trilogy, but book 3 ended up getting canceled from its publication. So the first 2 books are out, and I do plan on finishing book 2 of this, but I hear it ends in a cliffhanger, and I'm really sad because we will most likely never see book 3, but I still love Morgan Rhodes' writing, and I want to be able to support her as an author. And I hope that she does come out eventually with book 3. Next in the 4-star category, I have Flamecaster by Cinda Williams Chima. This is another spin-off series of one of her other series, the Seven Realms series, which I read last year? I want to say last spring. And I enjoyed it. It was okay. It felt very early 2000s YA, which it was. But this spin-off series, I am already so much more in love with this than I ever was with the Seven Realms. We follow one of the main ships, OTPs, from the first series, Children, and that's really our only connection to the original series is that child. And then we follow a bunch of other different characters as we're kind of dealing with this aftermath and constant warfare after about 20, I think it's like 20 to 25 years after the Seven Realms books ended. So I am very, very just in love with this world. It's gotten so much bigger than how it was in the Seven Realms. We're traveling to these places that were only mentioned or shown very small on a map, and I just feel that our world has expanded. The characters have such depth to them, and I am already just in love with them and so excited to continue on their journey. So I didn't expect to like this as much as I did, considering after I finished Seven Realms, I immediately tried to jump into this and I got angry. And if you've read it, you know why. So I needed some space away from this series while I calmed that anger. And now that the anger has been calmed, I am so glad that I jumped back into it. And the last book in the 4-star category, I have Truthwitch by Susan Dennard. We follow a girl named Safi who is a Truthwitch, which is one of the rarest forms of witchery in this world. And she is constantly in hiding from people who would abuse her magic. But when she gets caught by a prince of one of those neighboring kingdoms, a lot of political stuff happens. This is a very highly political with high magic system books, and I think it was extremely well done. I think my favorite part of this book was the characters. Safi is the epitome of a sassy protagonist, and I love her just so much. And her best friend Isolde is just my favorite person ever that I've ever read. I love her and I'd do anything for Isolde. And I just think they're dynamic, and then they're dynamic with the prince later on, and with understanding the actual implications of this political drama was so much fun to follow, because you're following these girls who have no idea. All they've been told is run, constantly run, and they are running, but they're also very much troublemakers, and it felt very real, and these characters just gave off this very real vibe. And I think that's one of the main reasons I did really enjoy this book, and I'm excited to see. I know we get different perspectives in the rest of the books, so either way, I'm very, very excited to see where this series goes. And lastly, for the 5-star category, I have 2 books for this one. I have Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. Basically, if you have seen Haunting of Hill House or Haunting of Bly Manor on Netflix, pick up this book. It is so good, has the exact same vibes. And if you haven't watched those shows, highly recommend. Very much so. Very great. And I also recommend this. It is just a perfect haunted house book. You get this girl, Maggie, who, after her father died, she inherits this house that her family had become famous for because her father wrote a book about how it haunted them and chase them out of the house. And Maggie has always believed that that's a lie. So throughout this book, it switches up between Maggie's perspective, currently investigating the house to find out why she thinks her father lied about this story, about this house, and if it is actually haunted, and why, or what is her father hiding from her. And then we flip to the book that her father wrote 20 years prior, which I loved getting those different perspectives, because Maggie would reference a couple of things, and then the next chapter we would get that reference from the actual book excerpt. And I think that was so well done, and it drew so many parallels that was just so intriguing to follow. And similar to Little Monsters, I read this in one sitting. It was just so good. I love it, and I will definitely be rereading this every Halloween. And the last 5-star book that I have, I quite literally finished today, and that is Starsight by Brandon Sanderson. This is the sequel to Skyward, which is about a girl named Spencer who dreams of becoming a pilot, but she is the daughter of a coward, and she ends up getting into flight school in book 1, and we follow her through flight school, and then we actually follow the reason that their planet is constantly being attacked by this race called the Krell in this book. And so many things are introduced in this book that is just cracked all open everything about this story. I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be 4 books long. I think 4. So I'm just so intrigued. I'm really sad that the new book didn't come out this year, considering this one came out last year. But the new one comes out in 2021, and I'm just so pumped. I understand the title of it, because I kept looking at the title of the 3rd book going, that sounds stupid. But now I get it, and I'm a little nervous, but I love these characters. They have just such amazing personalities and such depth to them. And I'm just so in awe as to how Brandon Sanderson writes these characters and this amazing alien world. Several worlds. It's just phenomenal. If you like sci-fi, Illuminate, any of those, highly, highly recommend the Skyward series. So those are all of the books that I have been able to read recently or DNF. I DNF'd a fair amount. I will continue to try and DNF books, but we'll see how successful I am in that endeavor. Currently, I am reading The 10th Girl by Sarah Faring, which is another haunted house book. So I'm really excited to get into that book. And yeah, I'm really excited that this book slump is finally over and that I can jump back into reading and catch up, because I feel so behind, but at the same time, I'm trying not to push myself into another book slump, because that would be a bummer. But yeah, so that's going to be it for today's video. So feel free to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. We post videos every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. Let me know what books you've recently read and recently loved. I am always on the lookout for new book recommendations. So feel free to leave those down below in the comments, and I will see you guys in our next video. Bye!